This is the answer key for Unit 2, Test 2 review sheet. I'm going to work through each problem individually. You can pause or rewind the video if you need to. So number 1 says write an equation in point-slope form to represent the linear equation graph below. Point-slope form is y minus y1 equals mx minus x1, where the point is xy and the slope, or x1, y1, and the slope is m. So I need a point, and it doesn't have to be anything in particular, but I want something that is going to be a perfect point across the crosshairs. So if I pick that point is 2, 3. And then I need the slope. So, sorry, this is the slope. So the slope, I need to find another perfect point. I will go with the point -4, 5. And so then I'm going to count the slope. The slope is negative because the graph is going down. And it's going down 2 over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So my slope is down 2 over 6, which reduces to -1/3. So the answer to this, remember that you have to put the x and y coordinates in their opposites. So this is going to be y minus the y value is 3, the m was -1/3, and x minus the x value was 2. There's your answer choice for number 1. For number 2, what is the equation in slope-intercept form of the line that passes through those 2 points? So because they gave it to me in 2 points, the first thing I need to do is find the slope. For slope, I'm going to use the slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I can make this x1, y1, and this could be x2, y2. So I'm just plugging it into my formula. So y2 is -34, minus y1 was -8, x2 was 12, minus the -1. So -34, this is going to be then plus 8 and plus 1. So -34 plus 8 is going to be -26. Divided by 12 plus 1 is 13. So the slope here is going to be -2. Then you're going to take that -2 and write this equation in point slope form. Again, point slope form is this one up here. So the y minus y1 and x minus x1. So I'll use these 2 points for x1, y1. So that gives me y minus y1 is going to be a plus 8. M is -2. X minus x1 is going to be a plus 1. After you write in point slope form, then you want to distribute. So I'll distribute that. I get y plus 8 is equal to -2x minus 2. Then to write it into slope-intercept form, you're going to subtract the 8. So your final answer here is y equals -2x minus 10. That is your slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. Number 3, write the equation in standard form. So standard form is going to be one more step from here. So what I need to do again is find the slope to start off with. So I will start and say this could be x1, x2, y1, y2. And it doesn't matter which points you pick whatever points you want. I'm using this formula again. So the slope is going to be y2 is -3 minus y1. x2 is -25 minus x1. So -3, again, this is going to turn into plus on both accounts, negative. So this is 2 over 10, which is 1/5. Then I'm going to use one of the 2 points. I'll just use this last point and put it into point slope form. So y again, you're taking the opposite value, so minus 3 is a plus 3. The n was 1/5, x plus 25. Again, flip that sign around. Then I'm going to distribute. So that 1/5 goes to both pieces, so this is y plus 3 is equal to 1/5 x. 1/5 of 25 is going to be 5. And then you're going to want to subtract the 3 on both sides. So I get y is equal to 1/5 x plus 2. Now that's your slope-intercept form, but this one asks for standard form. Standard form is ax plus by equals c. So in order to figure that out, I'm going to need to move the x over. So I'm going to subtract 1/5 x on both sides. So this turns into negative 1/5 x plus y is equal to 2. And we want to get rid of the denominator as well as that negative number. So I'm going to multiply by negative 5. So this gives me x minus 5y equals negative 10. Again, you're distributing that negative 5 to all of the pieces there. So number 4 says, what is the slope represented by this line? There's two different ways that I can solve this problem. The first way is to remember that slope is negative a over b. And in this equation, we have ax plus by equals c. So the a term is negative 4. So I get negative 4. And then the b term is 1. So negative 4 is positive 4 over 1. If you don't like that method, which is fine, it's not my favorite either, I can get it into slope-intercept form, which I think is just as easy. So I'm going to add 4x to both sides here. And I get that y is equal to 4x minus 8. And here is your slope, again, positive 4. So number 5 says the local elementary school is hosting a fall festival and selling tickets. Adult tickets are X, and they are represented by $4 each. The child's tickets are Y, and they are $3 each. They want to raise $500. Write an equation in standard form that represents the sales. So if I know that my sales are for adult tickets, they're X, and that's $4. The children's tickets are $3. Then I'm going to end up getting 4 times X. I want to add it to 3 times Y, and the amount that I want to have at the end is 500. Done. It's that simple. So that's the first page. Second page starts with this inequality. It says write the inequality shown on the graph to the right. So there's a couple of things that we discussed needing to know about the inequality. The first thing we needed to know was the slope. Another thing, we needed the y-intercept. A third thing we wanted to know, is it going to be above or below the line when you shade? And the fourth thing was, is it going to be dashed or a solid line? So if you go through these 4 questions, I think it'll help you to write this equation. The easiest thing to see, is it above or below the line? So if here's my line, and I'm just picking out the y-intercept, here's the line, it's shaded below the line. It also was a solid line. That's pretty easy as well. So you can start out with the equation y. Because it's below the line, I'm going to use the less than sign. Because it's a solid line, I will draw the equal to bar. And right there, I can possibly eliminate answer choices just by that information. The other information that I need are the slope and the y-intercept. The y-intercept for this is 2. We already said that that was going right here, through 2. And then the slope is positive or negative. Well, if it's going down, I know that that slope has a negative slope. So I know this already as well. So I can do some little mental math and get rid of some of the answer choices. I know my y-intercept I'm going to put here. I know that it's going to be negative, so I'm looking for all the answer choices that may not have this there. Then when I want to find the slope, that's probably the hardest part of the problem. I'm looking for 2 points, and I'm going down to over 1. So that's going to give me a -2 slope, or -2 over 1. And there's my final answer. For number 7, it says the linear function is shown in the graph at the right. Which ordered pair is in the solution? And this should have had, I apologize, y is greater than or equal to -3x plus 1. So if the graph is greater than, I want to shade above the graph. So the graph being shaded above would be all of this. And if that's what I end up having, then I'm looking at seeing, okay, well, which one of these ordered pairs falls in that solution? So we'll look at each one. The point 1, -3 would be here. And you can clearly see that is not a part of the solution. -1, 0. Remember, the x values come first and then the y's. So that's going to be here on the x. So that is not a part of the solution. 2, -5 is going to be right there, and it's on the line. So we'll think about that one just for a second. And then -4, -1 is going to be here. That is not going to be a part of the solution. Now, for anything on the line, when we look at this, we're looking at whether or not it is equal to or not equal to. Because it has this equal to bar, we know that points on the line do count. So 2, -5 will be a solution to this system. Take a look at number 8 and number 9. So number 8 says write an equation in point slope form of a line that passes through 6, -2 and parallel to that equation. Remember, parallel slopes are going to be the same. Because for 2 lines to be parallel to each other, they can never cross. So their rise over run needs to be the exact same. So when I look at this equation, I'm looking for the slope. So I look right here with the x. So the slope is 4/5. So my parallel slope is also 4/5. I want to use point slope formula, so that's the one with the y minus y1 and x minus x1. So I'm going to plug these things in. Remember, this is my x value, my y value. Those things will be opposite. So the y value is -2. When I put it in the equation, it becomes +2. The slope was 4/5. And this is x, again, I'll take the opposite, -6. So there is my answer in point slope form for that line. Number 9 wants point slope form as well, but this one talks about a perpendicular line. And when we talked about perpendicular lines, we said that their slopes are opposite or negative reciprocal. So that means that you're going to flip any fraction or a whole number. You're going to write over 1 and then flip it, and then make sure you have the different sign. So what I need to do on number 9 first is determine what the slope is for that particular line. So the slope for this line, again, you could write it at -a over b, which would be -6 over -3, which is +2. Or you could solve it for y. So I would subtract the 6x, and then you would want to divide by -3. Again, here's my slope it's a 2. So if the slope is 2, the perpendicular slope, again, this is 2 over 1, so I'm going to flip it 1/2 and then change its sign. So I end up with negative 1 over 2. So for this one, it said it's going through the 0.14. So the 0.14, I'm going to write again with the y value with the y, opposite sign, my slope, and opposite sign for the x value. Point slope form, that line is perpendicular to the original line. The last page gives me a graph and wants me to determine what the graph looks like and if those points are part of the solution set. So the first thing I want to do here is graph this line. So if I'm graphing it, I can solve it for y. So I can do plus 2x. So that gives me, those cancel. Negative 4y is greater than or equal to 2x minus 16. Then I would want to divide by a negative 4. Now when you divide by a negative number and you're dealing with an inequality, remember, we're going to have to flip this sign. So it's going to be less than 2 divided by negative 4 is negative 1/2. Negative 16 divided by negative 4 is a positive 4. So when I graph this, I'm going to go to positive 4 on my y-intercept. It's a negative slope, so that means it goes down. So down 1 over 2, down 1 over 2. The line is underneath the inequality, so that means it's equal to, so we're going to have a solid line. And then it says that I want to graph less than or equal to, so that's going to go below. Then I want to look at these 3 points and see, of these 3 points, are there any that are in the solution? So we'll just graph each one. 2, 5 is going to be right here. You can see that that is not a part of the shading region. 4, 2 is this point right here that's on the line. And again, as we've talked about it, if it's on the line and it's equal to, the line does count. So that's yes. And then negative 1, 0 would be here, and you can see that is also in my shaded region. Let's take a look at number 10 and number 12, or sorry, 11 and number 12. So for number 11, again, let's solve it for y, put it in slope-intercept form. So I would do that by moving the 3x over. So I get negative 2y is equal to negative 3x plus 10. And then divide by negative 2. Everything gets divided by that negative number. We don't have an inequality, so I'm not flipping anything here, but this is going to be y is equal to negative divided by negative is positive. Positive divided by negative 10 divided by 2 is going to be negative 5. So I'll start that graph at the y-intercept, which is negative 5, and then the slope is 3/2, so I'm going to go up 3 over 2, up 3 over 2, up 3 over 2. There is no inequality sign, it's just an equal to bar, so that's just a regular line. For this last one over here, the only thing that you need to do to be able to graph this is putting it into slope-intercept form by dividing by 3. So I end up with y. Remember, if there's nothing in front of the x, it's a 1. So this is a negative 1 over 3x. And 9 divided by 3 is 3. So negative 1/3 x plus 3. I'm going to start with the y-intercept, which is up at 3. And then with the negative slope, this graph will be decreasing, so it will go down. Go down 1 over 3. Down 1 over 3. That runs off my graph. I can also go up 1 and to the left 3 to stay in that same line. Those are your final answers there. For number 13, it's giving me a slope and a point, wants it in standard form. So I'm going to start by putting it into point slope form, change it into slope-intercept form, and eventually get to standard form. So for this, I end up with opposite the y value, so it's negative 3, I'm going to have positive 3. The slope is 1/2. X opposite of 4 is negative 4. That's my first thing that I need to do. Make sure that you can put it into point slope form. After that, you're going to distribute. So we'll distribute the 1/2 to both pieces. So I get y plus 3 is equal to 1/2 x minus 2. From there, I can put it into slope-intercept form by doing the opposite of whatever was with the y here. And so this is my slope-intercept form. Y is equal to 1/2 x minus 5. From here, so this is point slope. This is slope-intercept. And from here, I want to put it into standard form by moving the x to the other side of the equation. So the x going to the other side of the equation is going to be opposite, so negative 1/2 x. So that turns into negative 1/2 x plus y is equal to negative 5. And then I want to multiply by the denominator as well as a negative to get rid of that negative sign with the x. So this turns out to be x minus 2y equals 10. That is in standard form, and that's the end of the problem. The final problem on the review asks for this in point slope form, and it's giving me a graph. So when I have a graph, the very first thing I want to do is use a couple of the points given to find the slope. So when I look at this, it does not matter which 2 points you choose. You can choose the 2 points that are given to you. So I'm going in upward direction, so my slope is going to be positive. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up, and 1, 2, 3 across. So that slope is 6 over 3, or 2. So when I write it in point slope form, I'm going to write, filling in the gaps, the m again. That's my slope, so I'm going to get a positive 2. It should always be positive if your graph is going up. The y values and the x values will be opposite from whatever they were. You can use any point on this graph. I could use this point, I could use this point, this one, this one, this one. There's lots of different answers. If I just use these values right here for this point, this is the point -1 and +2. So if I use that point, the x value -1, I'm going to switch it and give me a +1. The y value was 2, I'm going to leave it and be switched so it's -2 instead of the +2. So that is a possibility as an answer. Like I said, there are multiple possibilities for answers for this problem. If I use this point down here, this is the point -3, -2. So if I use that point, it would be y plus 2 for the y, 2x plus 3. If you wanted to use one of the zeros, you could do that as well. There's lots of different possibilities for those answers. You just need to pick one of the points. Make sure you switch the values from positive to negative, negative to positive, and make sure that you have the correct slope. Good luck studying, guys. That's going to be the whole review. I wish you the best. I can't look forward to you doing well on the test more than you can. Please do your studying tonight. Make sure you understand each one of these problems. Work it out on your own. Come back and check it again. Thanks, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.